Hey, it's Louise Havala and you're watching Gatehouse Insights. On today's episode, I'm joined by Sheree Rubinstein, who is the CEO and co-founder of One Roof Women. Sheree, thank you for being here with me today. And thank you for the amazing work you're doing with empowering women in business. So take me back to the start of your career.
So I was one of those very high achieving students. Worked really hard, had no idea what I wanted to do when I finished school. But, my parents and a careers counsellor all said to me, "Oh, Sheree, you're really good at writing. You're a good student. You should study law." Which I think can often be, when you're at school, you kind of don't really know what the options are and don't really know what's out there. And so, it was very much just, I was encouraged by people around me that that's what I should do. And then, so I studied media and communications and law at Melbourne University. And again, still had no idea what I wanted to do. Sometimes you meet people who know from a really young age, this is what I'm going to do with my life. I just had no idea. And then while, studying at law school, a lot of people said to me, you should apply for jobs and apply for clerkships and you don't want to pass up that opportunity. So again, it was not really knowing what I wanted to do, but just kind of going along for the ride, and applying and, ended up doing a couple of different clerkships and got a job at Allen's. And I worked there for 2 years. Worked really hard, made incredible relationships and still have relationships with people from Allen's, like lawyers and people who work there and also clients who I connect with quite regularly. But realised that law, I wasn't quite sure whether law was my calling, and I started kind of questioning that. And at the same time found this passion for supporting women. And that really came out of my own journey of being so unsure of myself, and feeling like I just felt like I didn't have a lot of confidence in my entire journey of studying and practicing law. And realised that there were a lot of other women out there who felt lost and felt unsure of themselves, and the struggle of navigating how do you become a partner as a woman, and what does success look like as a woman, and where are female mentors who can guide you and support you. And I started reading books like Lean In and The Wife Drought, and it just opened my eyes to a challenge and also an opportunity that I had never knew existed. And it was really that passion that led me to then starting my own business called One Roof, which is all about supporting women and supporting women in business and leadership and entrepreneurship.
Tell us a little bit more about One Roof, what that is, and the programs you run.
So One Roof is a co-working space. It's Australia's leading co-working space dedicated to women-led businesses. A co-working space is a shared office space, and has become a very popular and fast-growing trend, particularly for startups and entrepreneurs and small businesses who don't want to pay high rent and don't want to organize, like kind of take a lease on their own office and have to manage all of that. And so not only is it economical for startups, it's also a great opportunity for startups to tap into a community, to be surrounded by like-minded people and to get support and a whole range of different opportunities to be supported. We're based in South Bank. We have over 1,000 square metres of space, so 2 really large buildings, and we have nearly 80 businesses working out of there now. They're all women-led, so whether that's a female founder, co-founder or CEO, or have a very strong mandate around gender equality or advancing women in business and entrepreneurship. But really varied businesses. We have startups, and that might be startups in the financial services sector or education or health or fashion. We have social enterprises, not-for-profits, freelancers, consultants, remote workers, creatives, even corporates using the space. And I would say what makes One Roof unique and different to every other co-working space in Australia and basically around the world is firstly the focus on supporting women-led businesses. There's probably only 10 around the world that actually have that kind of niche. And also the support that we provide. So co-working is one element of what we do, but the focus is very much on the community and really building an ecosystem. And we called it, the idea of One Roof is that we provide everything an entrepreneur needs to thrive under one roof. And so the type of support and opportunities that we provide to our members are networking events, or we bring in experts, so whether that's a lawyer or an accountant or an investor or a sales expert to offer one-on-one office hours. We run an accelerator program. We run events that are focused on sales or on pitching or on, we've run an event called an F-Up night where you share your business failures. So lots of opportunities for our members to connect, to access business coaching and strategy and support, and to be part of a community that really elevates them and really wants to see them succeed.
Speaking about women-led businesses, what have you seen as the challenges for women, I suppose, leading companies, being promoted, going through that career progression?
So in terms of the challenges for women starting businesses, there is a great report that was has come out the last 2 or 3 years. It's a Dell report, and it analyses 30 different countries, and it's analysing the conditions that foster high growth, high potential female entrepreneurship. It's actually found that Australia is the second best place in the world to be a female entrepreneur after the US. But which is great, and there's a lot of opportunity in that. But it also found that there's no country in the world that's achieved gender parity in entrepreneurship. And it lists out the different challenges that we see. There's so many, but I think that the crux of it is access to networks, access to upskilling and resources, mentors. I think there's the reality that there aren't enough women being showcased as successful female entrepreneurs and just successful stories. And so if we can't be what we can't see, and so if we're not seeing women as entrepreneurs and as leaders, then we don't ourselves think that we can be entrepreneurs and leaders. I think there's also an element of mindset and confidence, and there's a great statistic that says that a male will put themselves forward for an opportunity if they believe they have 60% of the skills and qualifications, whereas a woman will wait until she has 100% of the skills and qualifications. And so what you see is that women don't put themselves forward in the same way. They actually, they might be this good, but they talk about themselves as being this good, and so they don't come across as impressive, or they don't share their accolades or their accomplishments. And that's a challenge in itself that we, like at One Roof, we're constantly thinking about and trying to elevate women and encourage them to put themselves out there. I also think funding is a big thing, and that is universal. I think particularly in Australia, we're not seeing enough funding generally, and the appetite for risk is there isn't a whole lot of appetite. And then when you're a female, there's a whole lot of other challenges that are presented in terms of unconscious bias and the expectations of you as a woman, and is she going to have a child soon, and is she actually capable of being an entrepreneur? The kind of questions that are asked differ because you're a female. So it's really there's a lot of challenges there, but I think there's also a lot of exciting opportunities, and One Roof really tries to focus on, okay, great, there are lots of opportunities here that we can, actually elevate women and support them, so let's do that.
Do you see society changing at all?
Yes, I do. I think, you can definitely feel, I started One Roof 3 years ago, and I think it was very timely when I started it, because the conversation of supporting women, not just in entrepreneurship, in business, in leadership, seeing more women in those decision-making positions became a topic of conversation. And I think some of the success of One Roof has been based on kind of the luck of the timing and the fact that people want to engage in these conversations and they care about, seeing gender equality and diversity and inclusion beyond just women, like that kind of full gamut of equality and diversity and inclusion. So I think the conversation is absolutely there. We are talking about it. We care about it. I think that the challenges then become a little bit deeper and a little bit more unconscious, and we need to start bringing those conversations to the fore. So it can be a little bit more difficult to change things because it's not overt. It's not necessarily an overt challenge. I don't think there are that many people out there saying, I don't want women to succeed. I don't want to choose this person because she's a woman for this position. I don't think it's an overt thought. I think it's quite unconscious, and so there's a new challenge arising in how we bring those conversations to the fore. So I think the conversations are there, and it's important and it's great. It's just then how we create change. It's the action that has to follow the conversations.
Do you have any actions in the pipeline that you want to push?
A big thing for me is seeing more women-led businesses accessing funding. I think that would shift the dial massively in this country. And so that's a big thing that I'm working on. It's not a fully worked out idea, but it's something that I think when I started One Roof, I've always been thinking about. I've been really good at building community and building a pipeline and a network, and I love facilitating and coaching and supporting. And I think that I've created a great community that investors can leverage from. And so I'm starting to really have those conversations and look at how can we leverage from this great community and brand that One Roof is in order to then, funnel them into opportunities to access funding and to see them grow, like to go from an early stage startup to a high growth, high potential global business. That's what we want to see. So yeah, that is of particular interest to me.
How is the community at One Roof?
In terms of like the
vibe.
type So One Roof is an amazing community. It is very much businesses and entrepreneurs and people who are passionate, who have taken risks, who have put a lot on the line. They're very honest about, the journey. And I think a lot of that comes back to myself and my passion and One Roof generally, and how much we encourage very honest conversations, and how honest we are in our journey, and the fact that, we face a lot of challenges and make a lot of mistakes, and we're very honest about that. So you find that people are very honest, very real, very passionate, and really want to support. They're there and they want to support the other people in the community, working in the space and in the broader community. And I think that is something that's really helped elevate a lot of these entrepreneurs. And, there are so many times where I think I should just, like, in a conversation like this, we should just bring in a few One Roof members and listen to them. And often they'll say to me, Sheree, this is so much more than a co-working space. Like, you call it a co-working space, but to me, it's a family, it's a community. It's changed my life, literally. It's helped me to gain networks and access opportunities that I wouldn't have otherwise had. I've gotten media coverage from it. There's been collaboration and partnership opportunities that have come out of it. I've built a team here. So you see the incredible benefits that people get from working in an environment like One Roof that is so real and genuine and passionate and really wants to support.
It's wonderful because when you're starting your own business, being an entrepreneur, it can be lonely. So having that network, just someone to speak to that might be going through the same challenges is really comforting.
Yes, and we definitely find that quite a few of the members who end up coming to One Roof are people who have been running their business from home, and they reach a point where or even working, in an organization, and they've got an idea that they want to pursue on the side, or they have an opportunity to work a little bit more flexibly, and they can come into One Roof and get support, like personal and professional development and support, and be around a group of people who are different to either their day-to-day, or, they've been working at home in isolation, and they go, I just need a change, and I need to be in an environment that elevates me. And even if you don't talk to anyone during the day, it's in an environment with people who are productive. And so many people say it's like there's such great opportunities to network, and yet I also get so much done because you feel it. You're in an environment that's so conducive to work and productivity and coming up with innovative ideas. And you walk into the kitchen and you have a conversation, and that person becomes a client or becomes somebody who you partner with, that's the magic, which is very organic.
Speaking on the future of work, tell us a little bit about your views of it and where you see it going.
So I find it really interesting. I think, I run a few events I have run around the future of work, and I think it's a really interesting topic. And I think when we talk about the future of work, we kind of think, that's 5 or 10 years down the track, or 20 years. But I actually think future of work is now, and we're seeing a lot of changes happening right now. Some of the things that I think are really interesting is seeing the way that individuals, the needs and desires of individuals are changing. In particular, you're seeing, in the workplace over the next kind of 10 years, I think the statistic is around 70% of the workforce will be millennials. And millennials, their desires are around mentorship and networks and, community and flexibility and constant feedback. And so these desires and needs are changing the way people are working day to day. And so you're finding a lot of people becoming consultants or freelancing. And I think in the US by 2020, 40% of the workforce will be freelancers and independent contractors. And, it's safe to assume Australia follows suit. So we're seeing that the workforce is becoming a much more of a independent contractor, consulting, freelancing community. And workforce, and that's affecting corporates. And so what I'm starting to see is I'm having lots of conversations with corporates and looking at, what opportunities are corporates creating for their staff to work more flexibly, because that's what they want. Or, if their staff actually have ideas that they want to pursue on the side, how is the organization allowing them to do that? Or if they want to learn new skills, you're a lawyer, but you actually want to learn how to code, or you want to learn the language of coding or technology because you think that that's going to be really beneficial to you as a lawyer in your work. How are firms and organizations actually creating opportunities for you to learn and grow? And I think a lot of organizations are realizing we need to find ways to allow our staff to kind of work remotely and work flexibly. And One Roof has become a great platform and space for corporates to send their staff. And we're seeing it with companies like Lululemon and NAB and MYOB, and it's a really growing trend. And I find that really interesting because I think individuals working in larger organizations have incredible resources that they can leverage from. And the concept of entrepreneurship is really interesting. And so if they can come and work from One Roof, learn, see things from a different perspective, and then go back and actually utilize what they've learned and to come up with new ideas and test new ways of doing things within their organization, I think that's really interesting.
Are there plans to open other office spaces in Melbourne?
Yes, so we do have a space called Engine House opening in Windsor, and we've got a great partnership with them. and it'll be that if you work either at Engine House or One Roof, you'll have access to work from both. And we've got a massive event space and lots of meeting room facilities. So we don't just have people working, hot desking or using a private office. We also have people just coming in to use those facilities. And I'm constantly in conversation, looking at opportunities to expand and grow One Roof, with other spaces, and really refining the program and the support that we provide, and then actually looking at an investment, a fund that's attached to that. So yes, there are definitely lots of conversations focused on expanding One Roof around Melbourne and Australia. We've tested One Roof in Sydney, LA, New York and Melbourne. So we have been in other markets, and that's been really interesting. And so, we've got a global network already. So I'm constantly in conversations and actually also constantly in conversations with co-working spaces that are focused on female-led businesses in other cities and countries around the world. So I talk very regularly with a co-working space in Tel Aviv in Israel and in Toronto in Canada, and then I'm going to the Wing in New York. And so I think, those kind of partnerships are also really interesting, having that kind of global reach. And when you see people traveling more and more and wanting flexibility and the opportunity for remote working, they can work from anywhere.
I want to shift us into personal brand.
Sure.
You've built your personal brand in your space. Can you share your secrets on how you've done it and what actions others can do?
I think so. One of the key I think one of my secrets, which it's not really a secret, it's kind of quite obvious, but to do it well is an important thing. I think I'm very genuine and authentic, and that is in every conversation and interaction I have. It's in how I build my brand every time, personally and with One Roof. Every time I give a talk about One Roof and the work that I do, I'm very honest. I share the real stories. And I do that because I think it's really important for people and for women in particular to hear the real stories and not to look at me and think, oh, she's really successful and I could never be her, and how has she done that and how has she taken those risks. I want people to know the real journey, and that it's not easy, but that they can do it too, and that so I think being very genuine in my approach and bringing my passion into everything that I do has really elevated my brand. And people often say to me, you come across as very authentic and genuine, and that is something that resonates with people. I think the other key way that I've really built up my personal brand, probably two things. One of them is networking. And I think women are very good at connecting and meeting people. I think when it comes to networking, we don't like the word networking, or there's something about networking that it doesn't sit well with us. It feels disingenuous, it feels salesy, it doesn't feel right. But I think when you find a way of networking that works for you, and it's like, let's get rid of the word networking. You find a way of connecting to people that works for you, that builds your brand and creates incredible opportunities. So for me, when I left my career in law, I knew I had this passion. I was working a couple of jobs, but I didn't really know exactly what I was going to do. I didn't know that I was going to become an entrepreneur and start a business. I never imagined doing that. And so one of the things that I did was I started meeting a lot of people. And sometimes I didn't know why, or, I would email someone and say, I'd love to have a coffee with you and pick your brain and seek support, or I would go to networking events or get involved in different opportunities, leadership programs and things where I was there on my own and I didn't know anyone, and really put myself out of my comfort zone. Those opportunities have been incredible for me in terms of building my brand and building a network, and have created, in terms of what One Roof is now. It wouldn't be what it is. I wouldn't have the space that I have if I hadn't been putting myself out there and talking about my passions and meeting people. So I think networking connecting to people, building relationships with people is incredibly important. Building, looking for mentors and people who really elevate you is very important. I think the other thing that I've done is really use social media. And again, I think social media it's very much just an extension of who you are offline. And so I'm very genuine online in the same way that I am face to face and in, offline. And so I've just created an online presence as well. And that's really elevated my personal brand and the brand of One Roof. And whether that's writing LinkedIn articles on topics that are of interest to me or, utilizing social media or doing interviews like this. I'm constantly putting myself out there and saying yes to opportunities and really trying to position myself as a thought leader on something that I'm passionate about, which is supporting women in business and entrepreneurship.
You touched on something before about challenges in business. What's been one challenge you've faced and how have you actually overcome it? How have you pushed through it?
The first key challenge that I faced was realizing that I am an entrepreneur and what that means and how to build a business. I think, that concept of imposter syndrome, and I think it's something that women have a tendency to really resonate with. For a long time, I didn't see myself as an entrepreneur, and I still saw myself as a lawyer. And as a lawyer, I have very particular ways of doing and seeing things, and I had to shift my mindset, which was very challenging for me, and learn new things that I never realized I was going to do, like building a team and hiring people and being the person who manages the finances and, the trying to work out the sustainability of the business model and building partnerships and like all these things that I didn't realize I was able to do. I think the first challenge was just confidence in myself. And even then, every single day, I, have to keep reminding myself and, back myself because every single day I'm put in uncomfortable situations that I haven't been in before. And that's a constant challenge. Very early on, a mentor said to me, you need to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. That is what entrepreneurship is. That is what it means to build something and create something and not really know what you're doing. And so every single day you're going to be faced with that and you just need to get comfortable with it. Even things like this, like being interviewed and being in front of a camera and public speaking. I mean, 3 years ago, if you told me that I was going to do that, I was incredibly scared, and I, had a genuine fear of public speaking, and I've had to push through that, and I've pushed through it because of my passion and because I want to encourage other women to do the same. I think one of the other biggest challenges that I had was probably not saying no, not realizing what is an opportunity and what is a distraction. And very early on when you start a business, you want to say yes to everything and every opportunity is exciting. And for me, I didn't really know how to discern whether that was a good opportunity or not. And so I probably said yes to a lot more than I was capable of doing. And I have a work ethic of thinking just work harder and you can get it all done, but it doesn't always work like that. So some of the biggest challenges I faced was, very early on, like in the first year, having a presence and a co-working space in Melbourne, Sydney, LA, and New York was pretty crazy. And I had a business partner in the US managing that, but it was too big too quickly. And so I've pared all of that back and have tried to be a lot more focused. But yeah, that was a big lesson in having to close down spaces and move members and communicate those challenges to people and often feel like I've failed. Has been really hard, but big lessons in realizing that very quickly you've got to work out what is an opportunity and what is a distraction and focus on, you know what you need right now and kind of know the direction that you want your business and your life to go in. You might not fully know. I don't really know, but I know that my passion is in supporting women-led businesses, and I know the kind of things that I like, the kind of mark that I want to leave in this world. And so I need to be guided by that and by my values to make sure that I say yes to the right things and no to things that aren't right at the time. And it's a challenging dance, but you learn sometimes by making big mistakes.
Before we wrap up, what's some words of wisdom you'd leave our audience?
I think a couple of things. The first thing I would say, and I say this a lot, and it's almost a mantra that guides me every single day, is feel the fear and do it anyway. I think I realized at some point in my career, I used to think that successful people never felt afraid and never felt fear. And so every time I felt scared and nervous, I thought I can't be successful. And I, at some point, had this epiphany that, of course, they feel afraid. Everybody feels scared. It's just that successful people, or people who give it a go, they just give it a go anyway. They feel the fear and they channel that into trying something and testing it and putting themselves out there. So I would say never feel like you don't need to be scared, because I think people are scared all the time. It's just they push through that fear, and I think it's really important to know that. The other thing that I would say is something I learned very early on as an entrepreneur, and I really had to shift my mindset going from a lawyer to an entrepreneur, was this idea of kind of lean startup and the principles of testing something before you go out there and perfect it and make it happen. As a lawyer, you want things to be perfect. That's what we do. That's what we're good at. We work really hard. We dot every I and cross every T and make sure that before we give our advice, it's really, really well thought out. In entrepreneurship, and when you're testing new ideas and innovation requires us to actually not be perfect. And in order to do that, you've kind of got to sit with the feeling that you're putting something out there that's very vulnerable, and you're asking for feedback even though you know it's not perfect. And it's really important to take that feedback and use that to tweak and iterate, and then go back and work on that idea and then try to perfect it. I meet a lot of businesses and a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people working in corporate and large organizations with ideas, and they say to me, once I've got my website perfect and my logo and my branding, then I'll go out there and start talking to people. And I keep trying to flip that. I keep trying to flip people's thinking. And I say to them, no, go out there and talk about it before you've got a business card, before you've even got a website. You don't need a website. You need to know whether somebody is going to buy into your idea. And in order to do that, you need to be having conversations with people and be testing that well before anything else is perfect. So yeah, to sum that up, the advice is done is better than perfect sometimes. And if you want to test and innovate and come up with new ways of doing things, then don't try and be perfect. Get it out there and have conversations with people and use that to get feedback and customer validation and testing, and then try and work out how to perfect it.
Sheree, this has been wonderful, so thank you.
Pleasure. Thanks, Louise.
Now, Sheree and I would love to hear from you. What is the biggest insight you're taking away from today's conversation? Comment and share below and let us know. If you like this episode, please subscribe to our channels and share this video with your friends. And thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time on Gatehouse Insights.